Welcome in, everybody. It's Wednesday. We have a special show. We're welcoming my buddy, Eric Nusbaum. That's why I'm supporting my Dodgers, because he wrote this great book, Stealing Home. And we'll be talking with Eric about that and some of his other sports stories. I know, kind of weird he uses that name. And also, what else we got? Oh, Lakers are on at 6. Dodgers are on at 6. That's right. Let's go. We got some fun. Hey, if you want to call in, we do that. 310-422-0295. That's my boy right there, Barnaby Jones. I'm always supporting the Quinn Martin Productions. That's Barnaby. He's a sharp one. He can pick locks. If he has to, he can run a little bit, shoot a little bit. But he's tough. Look him up, Barnaby Jones. Okay, let's start the show. I'm a Venice, California-born, Los Angeles-based sports fan, one that has played, coached, announced, and promoted sports my whole life. My love affair with sports started in my own backyard and has led me to this podcast. Thanks to the support of the Amateur Athletic Union in East Bay, I'm excited to bring you Sports Stories with Denny Lennon.
Sports Stories with Denny Lennon aims to bring its subscribers interesting, unique, and uplifting stories. You can find us at sportstoriespodcast.com. We drop audio and video podcasts every Thursday and go live on YouTube Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Many guests have shared their stories with host Denny Lennon, such as Super Bowl and BCS champions Brendan Ion Badejo, Peter Boulware, and Trevor Lawrence, 3-time Olympic gold medalist Karch Karai, Kentucky Derby winner Doug O'Neill, NCAA champions Toby Bailey and St. John Smith, Hall of Famers Jimmy Lennon Jr., Rudy Tomjanovich, world champions Boom Boom Mancini and Tim Leary, AAU Sullivan Award winners Catherine Plummer, Sabrina Ionescu, and Spencer Lee, not to mention the head honcho, AAU president Dr. Roger Gowdy. We've also had best-selling authors Wesley King and Wayne Coffey, and our Sports Stories favorite, Norm Bass, the first African-American to play 2 professional sports post-World War II. Become a friend of the show on Patreon, and you can help keep the dream alive. Go to patreon.com/Denny Lennon or go to our website to see all of our social media links. If you have an interesting, unique, or uplifting story to tell, contact us on sportstoriespodcast.com.
Coming to you live from Los Angeles. We're in the shadow of LAX. It's a top-rated video podcast in the Centinela Adobe Corridor. It's where we share a wall with the Korean United Methodists, and you can see St. Jerome Church from our back porch. We're in the 7428 studio where Jimbo and Marley run the show, and Buck kicks back until he's got to kick it out. It's SSDL Live at 5 on YouTube. That's right, live at 5. Here we are in the 7428 studio, an 88 degrees. 88 sultry degrees, hotter than a witch's. Here's the thing. 1988 is when Kirk Gibson hit the home run, and the Lakers won a championship that year. So take the 88 degrees, do what we got to do. Hey, we are the top-rated video podcast and YouTube live show in the Centinela Adobe Corridor. Don't forget it. It's my family here. I hope so. How about my St. Markers, my St. Bernard peoples? I need them. And I also need my VBC people and my AAU. All right? We got them all. Everybody here. Okay. Gather around the temperature gauge. All right. Let's go with our top 5 states ranking on the show. Outside of California, West Virginia knocking on the door. I think I know what that has to do with. Somebody coming on the show soon is a native of West Virginia. Oklahoma checking in. Thanks to Gary Lennon. He was on the show recently. Florida. Oh, that makes sense. Miami probably seeing what we're up to. I get it. Wisconsin coming strong. That makes sense. The Brewers, they know that we're out here, and that's who our Dodgers are playing. Oh, he's coming in at number 2. Okay, let's keep moving. How about live DL voice? Okay, here we go. Got my shout outs, roll call, throw to. Hey, that's Never Seen LA. And we do those every Tuesday. We go to a Jonas Never mural somewhere around Los Angeles. And we try to break it down, let you know what it's about historically and socially. And we did Tyler Skaggs this time around. It was great. His mom came on the show last week to talk about the Tyler Skaggs Foundation. He's got a great legacy that's played out in his name. Mike Bowley is going to be dropping on Thursday. That's tomorrow. That's right. MB, two-time VBC champ and legend at Loyola High School as the varsity coach, and he's dropping. It's almost a lost episode. Look at this. Sam Lagana, the voice of the Rams and SoFi Stadium. That's right. That's Sam right there. You know, he goes back in the day. I go back with him to the AVP when he was Pro Beach announcer. And Sam, hold on a sec. Let's go back for just a sec. Sam will be at Casablanca Restaurant tomorrow, and we're doing a video podcast interview there. Now, it won't be going live on YouTube. That's going to be post-produced and eventually put out as part of our Thursday video podcast. But if you'd like, you could call Carlos and get a table on the patio at Casablanca. We'll be doing the shot inside, but there is patio seating available. Put up Carlos's number one more time. I think it's 310-505-5091. That's Carlos. He'll hook you up and probably give you a special, like a sports story special, something like that. Nice. All right. Love it. Love it. That's Sam. Hey, Friday happy hour. That's Jeff Pearlman. Okay, crazy, right? He's been on every big show. Now he's coming to the biggest, our show. We're talking about Three Ring Circus. It's all about Kobe, Shaq, Phil, and those three rings they won together. And he's a 9-time New York Times bestselling author. Crazy. He's coming on our show Friday. So that's going to be fun. Let me show this off a little bit. Three Ring Circus. Yeah, he's making the rounds. Colin Cowherd, Dan Patrick, Denny Lennon. I know. I say this. I usually say those three guys together. Okay. Sweet. Hopefully you like the new angle. We've been going with this for a bit. All right. Did we catch up on everything? No. Twitter. Let's see what we got. Oh, hey, we're going Karch and St. John, and they're going over maybe 7 weeks because it could go into a 7th game. So we're evaluating them on almost everything but their direct beach volleyball skill set and wins. And so far in this competition, St. John leads at 3-2. He's won with his college team, with his sponsor, and most recently, his partner, Randy Stoklos, won the vote over Kent Steffies. That was Karch's partner. Karch won the acting, and he also won, remind me, Marley?
The best sponsor?
No, he won something else. His high school team that went undefeated, won the CIF championship. So those are the two. Right now, what's up for grabs is who was a bigger international presence or who made more of an international impact. Karch's 3 gold medals, 2 indoor, 1 on the beach, or St. John's, who was a pioneer as part of starting the international beach volleyball circuit. So there you go. You can vote at Sports Stories DL. That goes for the next 6 days, and we'll see if Karch can push a game 7. That would be fun. Hey, I think we talked a little bit about last week, James Worthy being my new best friend, retweeting. He didn't retweet. He just liked one of my very hilarious tweets. Anyways, look at this one. MLBA, Major League Baseball. That means I'm friends with like all of the players in Major League Baseball now. Solid. Look, we're just, you know what? It's a big family. Come on in. Come on in. You saw the evidence right there. MLBPA retweeting. Love it. All right. Producer of the show today, Marley Rice, will, with her sister, Darren, has been selected to go on the show Wipeout. Right? Huge. Look at this. She's going to be doing this kind of stuff. She took the physical. She passed, which is big. So did Darren. And they're going to be going on, if I'm not mistaken, November 2nd. So that's good because they get that done before we descend into Civil War on November 3rd. Just joking. To keep politics at sports. It's a sports show. We're not. Okay. Good. Let's keep moving. What do we got next, Mar?
Eric, let's bring
wow, we just crushed that. Hey, my guest today is Eric Nusbaum. Eric released this book I already showed you, Stealing Home, about the building the Dodger Stadium. That has done well. He also writes a tremendous column, newsletter, blog. He'll explain, but it's called Sports Stories, right? Kind of weird. Okay, it's all right. But they are some really great sports stories. So he actually picked up one on Norm Bass from this, and we're also going to talk about the Globetrotters and the Lakers integrating basketball, right? Okay, Eric, you've earned a walk-up montage.
Yes, you have.
Now I understand you got a 4 and a 2-year-old.
I do. They're downstairs.
Right here. Hey. Oh, you know what? Everybody gets swiped. But Eric was like the beginning of it. That was fun. All right, let's go up to the state of Washington. Say hi to Eric. Hi, Eric.
How you doing, Denny?
Good. Do you like your walk-up?
It was good. It was long. I appreciate that because yours is getting longer and longer. So it's like I was watching that whole, intro, and I was waiting for me to appear amongst your, famous, notable guests. And all I'm seeing is you getting buffer in your drawings of yourself, but not me in the list of guests.
This is good. This is why you're an author. And I'm just, making funny on a show. You're very observant. I like the wipe off. When we swiped you that day, that really set the fire. And from you I swiped an Admiral off the show.
I think you swiped an Admiral that same day.
Was it? Oh, brilliant. Yeah. So you set the standard for getting swiped off. How I love the book Stealing Home, and I noticed, I just been following you a little on social media, and it seems to me like you've been getting some good sales notoriety on that. How's it been going?
It's been going good. I mean, it's been about 6 months since the book came out, a little more. Obviously, the last 6 months have not been normal in terms of getting out in the world, talking to people, promoting yourself, promoting your work. But, people are finding the book. It's selling steady, and the folks who are finding it seem to be really liking it. So I can't complain.
That's great.
It's been a very cool experience.
And is it true that once you get one under your belt like that and you get, a little bit of traction, it's probably a little easier to put your proposals out there for other ones?
We're going to find out, huh?
Yeah.
I'm not there yet. Well, we'll see. I think it's easier because they know you can finish a book,
Yeah.
They say, all right, he wrote to the end of the first one, so maybe we'll give him a chance next time.
No, it was great. And so, hey, well, our first question out of the gate has to do with our Dodgers. I know you're still a fan. And how are we going to do against the Brewers? What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, look, I think the Dodgers are the best team, but 2 out of 3, it's not baseball.
That's crazy.
I'm down on this playoff system. I'll be honest. I don't think it rewards the best teams. I mean, the playoffs never really do, but now they really don't. Anything can happen. 2 out of 3 series, it's a crapshoot.
We've seen anything happen often in baseball playoffs, and this one is more different. And I think you might have seen we actually have a call-in mechanism now. We're going high tech, Eric. So I think we got our first caller. Who do we got?
Wow, I feel like I'm on the Jim Rome show or something.
Let me see. Let me do this.
Teresa Sires.
Hi, Teresa.
Oh, there you go. Now say it again.
Hi, Teresa.
Hello.
Good. Eric, you got her?
Yeah, I can hear it.
And
Hi, Eric.
we always throw this phone in to make sure everybody understands that they're calling from a payphone. That's how our technology works, Eric.
I am on a payphone, so I've only got a quarter in, so I'll make it quick.
Yeah, you better move right along, Teresa. Teresa, you got a question for Eric.
I do, Eric. I love your book, by the way, fellow Dodger fan over here. I'm just wondering your opinion on if the team that shall not be named, but the cheaters of last year should have their title revoked and given to the rightful team, the Dodgers.
I think that the team that shall not be named should have their title revoked. I don't know if they should be given to the Dodgers, though. I don't think that's fair. I think just say, no winner that year or put an asterisk or something like that. I don't really feel like the Dodgers players would say that they felt like they won that year. And as a Dodger fan, as a baseball fan, I don't know. I wouldn't want a title like the banner to be hanging that way. I think there has to be
that's fair.
Something, but I don't know if I
take it
give
away
them the
for
title.
sure.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And there should be some kind of public shaming, I think, too. Or Major League Baseball should allow the other teams to throw at the Astros.
Well, they obviously don't do that.
There's more penalties for people throwing at the Astros than the Astros have gotten for cheating.
That's a good point.
I think the Astros got off kind of
ridiculous.
They got off kind of easy with no fans this year too. They didn't have to hear it. Yeah. And right now, they just beat the Twins again, right? So if they were coming to LA in the World Series, they'd be hearing it real loud. And now they're not gonna. It's a sad thing.
Yep. Hey, Teresa, thanks for calling in.
No problem. Thanks.
I love having fans call in. That's kind of fun.
Cool.
Yep. So as we stay right in baseball, 2 things that I noticed that you've either borrowed from our very successful show. One is our name, Sports Stories, and that's okay.
When did you start? No, I want to settle this once and for all.
1992.
1992.
No, we did it like
Wow.
8 months ago, dude. You
Yeah,
probably did the punch.
I think we were around the same time. We were like late last year.
Let's call it part of the same family.
I agree.
Okay, West Coast, and Culver City High, Venice. It's all right.
We could be a first sign of peace between the two.
It could be. The other was, and I'm so happy you picked up on the Norm Bass video podcast we did, and his just unbelievable story. And you wrote such a great piece on him on yours. So first, tell everybody about your sports stories. Where that lives, and kind of what your premise was. To get started with that.
Sure. So Sports Stories is a newsletter, kind of like a blog column newsletter. It's sports history stories, usually pretty obscure, that we send to your inbox. It's www.sportstories.substack.com, and every weekish, sometimes more than a week, sometimes 2 in a week, sometimes it depends. We send you a sports story for free. There's really cool illustrations by my friend Adam Villison. Adam. Yep. Did the illustrations in Stealing Home too. So if you've read the book and you've seen the black and white drawings inside that are beautiful, you saw the baseball cards put up in my montage. Those are by Adam. So written, illustrated, sports history. We cover some wacky topics, some famous topics. Sometimes they're light, sometimes they're heavy. And when I saw Denny, your Norm Bass video, I was just like, man, that's such a great story. I want to write about it. So I went ahead and did it.
You did, and you captured him, and I would love some time for him to be able to see it, because I think he's 81 now, so he's not always all the way up on technology. So I made sure that I went by the coffee company where he hangs out, and he's kind of like a guy there where we interviewed him. And I went up to the owner and I said, tell Norm, somebody else picked up a story, so on and so forth. And I printed it out and gave it to him.
Oh, cool.
So he was going to go by and check out on Norm. He lives not far from here in Inglewood. He was going to go check on him. So hopefully I'll hand it over to him and he'll see.
I love that.
The people. Yeah.
It's nice to be in print,
Yeah. I still read regular newspapers.
Coffee Company is awesome, by the way. It's a great spot.
It is a great place.
Put my, I'm not getting paid for this endorsement, but it's a true endorsement.
And I thought our conversation was kind of fun there, because people know him and they stopped by and they watched, and it was kind of fun. It was fun to do that.
Yeah, the king in his court.
And he was wearing, what he was wearing? That was in the video podcast. He's wearing his warm-up suit from the 2000 Olympic Games.
Still in good shape. Man,
I know.
I would have spilled on it by now.
Norm's the guy. So for those that don't know, and I like the fact that you get to explain him a little bit. Why don't you talk a little bit about Norm, and then we do have some clips to support it. But why don't you go ahead and talk a little bit about Norm, what you learned about him?
Sure. I mean, Norm Bass, just an incredible American story. He grew up in Northern California and Bay Area, and him and his brother Dick were just great athletes. And Norm became a pitching phenom, and he signed with the Kansas City A's as a college student, pretty young. Went out there, pitched in the minors. He was throwing gas, he says 100 miles an hour. Can't really prove him wrong, because there weren't any radar guns. And obviously good enough to make it to the majors. But before he could really take off in his career, his body started to kind of turn on him. And, he pitched a few years in Kansas City, but he was suffering from this mysterious thing that gave him arm problems. He had a hard time gripping the ball, and it turned out to be rheumatoid arthritis, which derailed his baseball career completely. Baseball requires fine motor skills. It requires your hand on the baseball in a really specific way. You got to snap your wrist. It's all these things that he couldn't do. And so, being an amazing athlete, he said, all right, I'm going to go play the NFL. So he went and he walked into the Denver Broncos training camp and made the team, started the first game. I think he was a kicker and a safety, which is insane. And after just a single game, I think his body just told him no mas. And descended into a darker period. He couldn't play sports. He got diagnosed. But, he was working at McDonnell Douglas in Culver City, I believe. And, finally, 15 years later in the early 80s, he picks up table tennis, which is a sport near and dear to my heart. I love table tennis. And he became great at it and made the Paralympics in 2000 as an old guy, relatively. Just like a remarkable story. It's kind of thing it's like out of a movie, but it's real.
Yeah, you wrote about that. You kind of compared him to like a Forrest Gump type of life. One of the things that's interesting throughout is the reason I was attracted to him right away, just kind of hanging out in the senior pool before. I'd always warm up there before I go swim in the regular pool over at the Y, and so I'd kind of walk back.
They
and
let you
forth
in the regular pool still?
Yeah, no, I can't get in. I get into the ocean now. But Norm was so funny. He calls it woofing, and he just has that kind of Muhammad Ali, Shaq type of just poking people here and there, but in a fun way. And he's got this relationship with everybody, and he's so funny when he goes to tell his stories that you just dive right in. And I didn't even know who he was, and then when I looked him up, it was great. So he faced not only that adversity, but he did face discrimination throughout. But his attitude allowed him to just kind of move beyond that, and it was really interesting.
He tells the story about, I can't remember if this was in your interview or if it was in his son's book, about going to dinner in Idaho when he's a minor league player in Idaho, and it's with a white family, and the family rushes to finish their dinner, and then they take him over to the living room and they expect him to like sing and dance and perform because that was the image they had of a black person in late 50s Idaho. Just devastating little like anecdote. One
of the first things he told me was, and I think we actually have this, it was about him because he and Dick were really big up in the Vallejo, and so the North used to play the South in California in the Shrine Football All-Star Game, and they played at the Coliseum in Los Angeles, and they would get a huge crowd. And people were always interested in this, but generally the South, because they had LA kids and stuff, would win that game. But Norm led the North to a victory with a big game. And I think he explains it here about who actually got the MVP instead of him.
My coach had to sell me to the other coaches because Vallejo didn't have nobody to go down there. So he told them that I was the best defensive player in Northern California. That's what he told them.
So it's Northern California versus Southern California, and the Shriners were like
that's who
would put on the tournament. And I mean, would put on the big game. Now, Norm, did they have like a week of practice or something like that?
We practiced about 2 weeks. Where we practiced at Old Pepperdine over there in Vermont. It was Pepperdine College. That's where we practiced right there.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And you seemed to win every position. Like you were the best kicker.
Well, what had happened there, we had a quarterback that they had picked, and he was a little bitty guy, pretty frail. And he would get knocked down easy in the scrimmages, and he couldn't throw the ball. Like the write-up said, he was All-American, but he didn't do it. So I could play fullback, halfback, any position. So we only had one fullback. When he got tired, I'd fill in for him. And they would take the ball and pitch it back to me, and I'd run and I'd throw a pass. And I kept completing this thing, 30 yards, 40 yards. And the coach said, Norm, you ever been a quarterback behind the tee? I said, yeah, in the 10th grade. He said, get back there. And I got back there and got a couple of snaps. So when the game started, I'm the starting quarterback.
Wait, and you won the kicking position as well, right?
Well, that was automatic, and they couldn't. I was kicking good then. That's what, and I was doing it.
And then on defense, they played you on defense?
I was a safety man on defense. I was a safety on defense. I played fullback. I played quarterback. I intercepted a pass in that game. I kicked 3 extra points, kicked off, did all that.
Okay, go over that again. I want to hear your stats again.
Okay. I kicked off 3 times. We scored 3 times, 21 points.
Okay.
I intercepted a pass in that game.
Okay.
I played fullback in that game. I threw a touchdown pass, 70-some yards.
Yep.
And when it got down to the trophy, my name wasn't mentioned.
Yep, his name wasn't mentioned, Eric.
It's
amazing
that he can laugh about it because
he does.
I guess that's the only thing you can do is either you're laughing or you're crying. But he dealt with some awful stuff.
I think I followed up after that. I said, "Do you know who did win that?" And he immediately knew the name. He goes, "Yeah, that kid from some white kid from San Francisco that had gotten some pub who went on to do nothing in college, but he got that trophy."
He talked to you about being told he couldn't play quarterback as a black player, and he had to build for it, where Dick was a kind of a stocky, thick running back type. Shorter. Norm was tall. He was lean. He had the tools to do it.
Yeah, and for you mentioned Dick Bass was an All-Pro running back for the Rams in the '60s, and so Norm headed through various things. You can certainly read in the article why, but he gets his bonus from the Kansas City Ace, and he goes out, and it just so happens that Charles Finley, the enigmatic owner, had just purchased that franchise, but he's out there and he talks about striking out Mickey Mantle, among other things, and it's just so cool. It's like you wrote. It's like his Forrest Gump life. It's like, okay, he gave up a home run to Roger Maris during the year that that ball is in the Baseball Hall of Fame, and he struck out Mickey Mantle.
Yeah, and he's totally not ashamed of giving up that home run to Roger Maris. It's part of history. No. He's proud to have been part of that moment. And he said, Maris got me, and he hit it a mile, and that's such a cool thing to be able to have that attitude about your life and about, I guess if you made the major leagues as a pitcher and struck out Mickey Mantle, you can have a good laugh about the home run you gave up to Roger Maris.
You can. I think he said something funny about striking out Mickey Mantle. I think he remembers the pitch, which is such a baseball thing. You remember every pitch you throw, 60 years later.
When I was about 7 or 8 years old, me and my sister were close. She's about a year and a little bit younger than me, but we were close. And my brother, he was the oldest brother, so he wasn't close to like we were. And I used to tell her all the time, I said, Dorothy, I'm going to pitch in the big leagues one day. And she used to say, won't you stop that? I said, I'm going to pitch it. I'm going to strike Mickey Mantle out. That's what I told her. At 7 years old.
Look out.
So when I got to New York, I'm on the mound, I'm pitching, and Mantle came to the plate, struck him out. I said, I got the Mick. I got the Mick.
I got him. Black out. Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah, I struck him out the first time I saw him. And I balled my fist up, and because I knew my sister, I used to tell her that. I said, I got him. Got him.
He's a fun guy.
Oh, yeah. Mantle's probably thinking, what's that guy doing? He might have been hungover. You don't even know.
Right. And what was he celebrating about? I failed to mention when he was a kid, he almost died of spinal meningitis. He was very fortunate about the age of 10. But then, as you mentioned, he played for the Denver Broncos. But after that, finally, he was kind of diagnosed. But you also wrote about, it was really interesting what happened in that pickup basketball game. I think that was over in the south section of Los Angeles in Inglewood.
Yes. So he was playing pickup basketball. He was still with the A's at this time in the offseason with his brother Dick and a bunch of players from the Rams. And the Rams team doctor was playing too. And this is before he had been diagnosed, but he had started to feel symptoms of rheumatoid arthritis. And in this offhanded moment, the Rams team doctor, whose last name you might recognize as Curlin, who's now, iconic LA sports medicine dude. Curlin Job is right there at the bridge and Howard Hughes Center. So Curlin says, hey, you got rheumatoid arthritis, and sort of just in passing. And then the moment slipped away from him. And then years later, when he's finally diagnosed, it's like, oh, wow. I really maybe I should have listened to Dr. Curlin, or should have thought more about what that actually meant at the time.
Yeah, and when that was mentioned in the book, and then I asked him about it, he goes, "Oh yeah, Robert Curlin, we used to hang out all the time." It's just like any of these people you say to them, like, I told him one time that Muhammad Ali came to visit my uncle, the boxing announcer Jimmy Lennon, when he was dying, and he goes, "Oh yeah, well I'll tell you one time when he came by, we all used to keep everybody came by and rolled through their neighborhood, and we used to keep our guns on the table. He wasn't too happy with that, and just all these stories, like 24/7, he's got a different story."
Yeah, I mean, the story of meeting Aretha Franklin in Kansas City, she's playing a club there, and he gets introduced to her. And I thought there's no way that could be a real story, but it was true. I looked it up, and she was really in Kansas City that weekend that he talked about. He talked about, pitching a complete game against the Orioles. That she was there, and I mean, maybe she wasn't there. But probably she was, and he definitely threw that complete game.
But that all lined up.
Baseball reference, yeah, it all lined up.
But that all lined up. Marley's got it. Okay, Marley just found that one in our interview. So let's see where he talks about that.
She got ready to leave. She wouldn't get in the limo. This is 2 a.m. Okay. She didn't cry. I don't want to leave him, crying and all that. Wouldn't get in there. So I had to coax her in there. She'd break her loose and run down the sidewalk. Wouldn't get in there. Finally, she left. So when I get home, I tell all the boys about this story.
Yeah.
And they don't want to hear it. They say, he lying again. I said, no. So I come home, about 12 of them was out there that day, and I didn't know something was up. And they took me and put me in the car, and they driving down the street. They said, we're going to find you out tonight. I said, what's happening? She said, Aretha's appearing right down here tonight at a club called the Hideaway in L.A.
In L.A.
I didn't know that. So we go down there, and on the way down there, I had to do something. So I said, if she see me, she's going to stop playing and run through the crowd and jump on my neck and cry like a baby. And they said, man, won't you stop? So we go in there, and lo and behold, she's playing the organ. And she saw me coming through the crowd. She stopped, cried like a baby, ran and jumped on my neck. I didn't know she was going to do that. I hadn't seen her in a couple of years.
That is fantastic.
Yeah, she did that.
That one I couldn't prove.
Yeah, the Hideaway. The Hideaway, I think that was in like on La Cienega, not far from, La Cienega maybe up there, not far from where they lived.
Yeah.
And so I know that was an old place. It's not there anymore, but I know that was like a place. But this guy is hilarious. Now he had, as you wrote, your article is redemption. It talks about redemption. And he went through a tough time once he was run out of athletics. He was like 25, 26 years old. And, he admitted he wasn't a great father, but he found his way back.
Yeah. I mean, we always talk about, the professional athlete dies twice, right? When they can't play anymore, when they retire, and then again, when they really die. And he was an example of somebody who didn't really get the chance to finish his career out the way he wanted to. I mean, his body didn't let him. And I think that I know, because I read the book and I watched your interview, it was tough. I mean, that's a really hard thing to deal with when you spend so much time working for something. And not only do you spend that much time, but you show the world and show yourself that you've really earned it. And then forces beyond your control take it away. And that forces you. That's painful. I remember, he talked about having to be twice as good as a white player because there's no, bench players who are black in baseball. You got to be a star if you're going to make it. Honestly, it still kind of goes today. The challenge of losing sports, being betrayed by his own body with rheumatoid arthritis, I think it knocked him down. I mean, I know it knocked him down for decades, and he took out that anger on his family for sure. And his son Norman III writes pretty poignantly and brutally about it in the book.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, it's very honest book all the way through, and Norm's very honest about it too. But he finds that redemption, through table tennis. He kind of finds himself. At the same time, he starts to teach. I think at the church, he teaches some ministry there, and he finds himself, and then he becomes the character of what was a pretty quiet kind of tennis atmosphere over at the park. He comes in, and he's talking his game, and he's chipping away and all that stuff, and all the way to a bronze medal. He plays this out. And there's Norm. See, that's him with the bronze medal, I think, there. And then he gets a chance to meet the president, and it's unbelievable. I think he said to us, I said, "What'd you say to the president?" He said, "I told him I want to see the Oval Office. I want to see where it went down." And immediately, like the Secret Service kind of comes in. It's just, I'm like, oh, I kind of believe him because.
Oh yeah, I believe that.
It's so funny.
Clinton probably thought that was funny.
Yeah, Clinton probably did think that was funny. So it's an unbelievable life. Hey, really good article. I love that you paid homage to him because he deserves it. He's a good man. But now the last thing I want to show about Norm as part of his Tall Tales will segue us in to the other story you wrote, which was about the Globetrotters and the Lakers in 1948, really breaking the segregation line. But this one is interesting. So we're going to go back to when Norm, I think he's just out of high school. This is probably before he goes to play for the Kansas City A's. So 19, 20 years old, right in that area, maybe 19. And he's a very good basketball player as well. And so he's got a thing where apparently he's lighting the Globetrotters up. So let's hear what he says here.
I remember we played the exhibition game against the Trotters.
Against the Globetrotters?
Yeah.
How old were you?
Oh, I was playing about 22.
Is that right?
And at halftime, I had 37 points.
Come on.
No.
37.
And they came in the dressing room, Goose and all them said, "Hey, Red," that's what they call me, "Red, you're going to have to lighten up. We're supposed to win this." Yeah.
They wanted you to act like you were on the Washington
They wanted
Generals.
me to play with them. They tried to sign me.
Really?
But the owner of the baseball team wouldn't let me do it.
That's at that. Well, that's great.
Charlie O said, "No, get off the basketball court."
Oh wow.
Okay. All right. Can we? All right, you're a journalist. Could you do a deep dive and find out if they in fact
I couldn't find it. I mean, who knows what team he was playing with, what year, what day? You know, it's Harlem Globetrotters are playing 300 games a year, 350 games a year back then. I mean, God, who knows? But it's a good story.
It is.
Sometimes the story is the main thing.
Goose and them, they come in and tell me, dial it back. Hilarious.
Maybe they did.
they might have. Tell us a little bit about the Harlem Globetrotters. Your article is how the Harlem Globetrotters integrated the NBA. And but maybe just a little background on the Globetrotters, because look, I was such a big Harlem Globetrotters fan growing up. Like, they were it for me. 7, 8 years, 9 years old, they were it. So I knew of them, but not everybody does know of them now. Like, some people know the version that's made it through the years, but not everybody knows just how they were formed and how huge they were and what great ambassadors of the sport they were.
Yeah, I mean, I loved them as a kid too. I remember my mom won a raffle at JCPenney at Fox Hills Mall, and we got floor seats at the Forum, I think, to see the Globetrotters, and then we got a signed basketball, and it was like the coolest thing ever when I was a kid. So I've always had a soft spot for the Harlem Globetrotters, and this story really gets into the roots of the Globetrotters. And for the record, I wrote this like a year ago, and you put me on the spot telling me right before the show we're going to talk about it, so I'm a little rusty on my Globetrotters history.
Yeah.
But in 1948, they had this big game against the Minneapolis Lakers, who were a pro basketball team. Globetrotters come from this era of, pre-World War II basketball in America, where it wasn't organized. Baseball, you can think back to like the National League going back more than 100 years. Basketball's newer as an organized sport, at least, with the NBA. And the Globetrotters came out of this barnstorming tradition, the semi-pro tradition. Mm-hmm. They evolved from this kind of local team in Chicago, and eventually they got really good, and they picked up this owner-player kind of character named Abe Saperstein, mm-hmm. who starts to build them up into something bigger. The name Harlem Globetrotters was not really about them being from Harlem, because they weren't. It was sort of a nod to the Harlem Renaissance. This is an all-black team with a Jewish owner, and they kind of hit the road, and they just played every night. And it was not as a tricky, funny, ha-ha-ha kind of basketball thing at first. They were just a really, really great team who could draw big crowds because they were so great. And they slowly, like, as they were beating up on opponents so bad, would incorporate the little tricks and the gags into their games because they needed to give the crowd something to watch. So
right.
We're in 1948 now, and the first pro basketball leagues are starting to form, but they're all white. And the biggest team in pro basketball is the Minneapolis Lakers, when their star center, George Mikan. Mikan was like the first great big man in NBA history. His jersey's up in Staples Center now.
Yep.
And so the Globetrotters owner, Saperstein, and the Lakers owner decide we should have an exhibition. We should play a game, and, maybe we'll fill some seats and make some money. Wasn't really that much thought to it, other than there being a good game, two popular teams, popular players. Mikan was from Chicago. They played in Chicago. The Globetrotters are from Chicago. So they played in this building, Chicago Stadium, which was at the time the biggest NBA, or not NBA, but the biggest indoor sports arena in the country, maybe the world. And they filled it up February 1948. And nobody really thought about it, except maybe the players, but this was an all-white versus all-black game. And it started to take on some symbolic weight, that you have this league that's supposedly the great pro basketball league, but you also have this team that is a great pro basketball team, or ostensibly pro, and the Globetrotters, who are all black, and they can't play with the Lakers. But they can play with the Lakers because they beat them.
Yeah. It redefined everybody's opinions of them, I think. I mean, like, you write in the beginning of your article about how baseball has this long and storied tradition. Even football has one, but basketball is a little different. Like you write that James Naismith, he hung up the Peach Baskets in 1891. We know that Wilt scored 100 in 1962. The merger of the NBA and the ABA happened in 76, and Magic Johnson and Larry Bird were drafted soon thereafter. And then here we are. So we all kind of know it, but we don't know before as well. And we don't remember that the Globetrotters were a competitive team that were showing off the skills of basketball in great competition before they started to become, the clown princes of the game.
Yeah, I mean, they were, for many people, and they were going to these small towns all around the country, barnstorming. They drove around in an old Model T that their owner, Abe Saperstein, owned. I mean, they were the first introduction for a lot of small town America to really great basketball. And they brought the idea that basketball could be a graceful, beautiful sport to people who hadn't really seen it that way before. Played with pace, played just, in an aesthetically appealing way. And obviously that's a big part of basketball's appeal now. It's a beautiful game. And I think we have the Globetrotters to thank for popularizing that really early on, before the NBA existed.
Yeah. Before we talk about that particular game, I think I got a call coming in. Who's our caller, Spencer or something like that?
Spencer Beebs.
Spencer Beebs is calling in. Hi, Spencer. You there?
Yes, I am.
Hey, Spencer, go ahead.
How you doing, Dave?
You're on with Eric. Yep.
Hi, Eric. How you doing?
Pretty good. How you doing, Spencer?
I'm doing good. Hey, question. Were the Generals paid to lose, or did they really play the game to win? And did the Globetrotters that good that they just didn't beat them?
I don't know the answer. I think it's sort of like a magician doing his tricks would never reveal them.
Right.
I can't imagine that the Generals were paid to lose in the beginning, but I think eventually it kind of grew into that. I had started working on a story at one point about the Generals, and in the beginning they really were a serious team, and they did beat the Globetrotters sometime, but it sort of evolved into this partnership where they didn't, and then they just didn't, and it became part of the gag. I think the way oh, go ahead.
You're saying they were a real team, like they played in league, or?
Well, no, like a real team like the Globetrotters who were barnstorming around the country.
Okay, got it.
But they were good. I mean, to be a Generals player, you have to be really good. You have to be able to compete with the Harlem Globetrotters credibly for a half or whatever.
Right.
But I don't really know the actual business dynamics of it.
Yeah, I've always been fascinated with the Generals as well. Hey, thanks for calling in, Spencer.
No, thank you. Hey, good luck, Denny.
Right on, buddy.
Good luck, Eric.
Thank you.
Bye.
I always got to crack up out of the Generals. In particular, there was this one episode of The Simpsons where Krusty the Clown had a gambling problem, and they had an intervention. And then they talked to him, and they said, "Krusty, you're putting your money down on the Washington Generals." And he said, "But I thought they were due."
I remember that. That's great.
So prior to them evolving into that team that would play the Generals, and it was kind of like wrestling in some way. At that point, there was some choreography to it. When they were competitive, and then they played this 1948 game against the Minneapolis Lakers, I would imagine both teams were out to win.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, this is a competitive basketball game, and the Lakers got out to a dominant start. Mikan, 6'10", and 6'10" in 1948 meant a lot more than it does now on the basketball court. I think the tallest player on the Globetrotters was 6'3". It was Goose Tatum. So you see, I mean, I think in the first quarter, Mikan scored 18 points. It was set to be a blowout, but the Trotters had a few things to their advantage. One is that they were way better conditioned than anybody else because they played every night, they could just run it up and down the court. The second thing was that they were faster. They were smaller, but they knew how to move the ball. They knew how to use that speed, and they took it to the Lakers running up and down the court. They did what the Nuggets probably wanted to do, or the Portland Trailblazers wanted to do. Smaller size, but speed. And they slowly worked their way back into the game. They started to hack Mikan, kind of an early hack attack. They just fouled him and fouled him and fouled him, and it worked. They fouled out Goose Tatum. Another Globetrotter fouled out, and finally the game comes down to the buzzer, and the Trotters hit a big jump shot to win it, and that was it.
That was That was the game, and I love that you made those references to the Hack-a-Shack because you could see that's one way to slow down Mikan, and also I think they like double teamed him.
Oh yeah,
Found a way. And then Goose Tatum, he was a really good athlete. I forget where he was in college, but I know he was a really celebrated college player as well. One of the people that was out there that made a big impact was Marcus Haynes. He was the ball handler, and I think he dribbled a lot of the clock down because that was kind of the norm in basketball in those days.
Yes, there's no shot clock, so you're talking about a very different game where Marcus Haynes, who's got the best handles in the world, can sit at the top of the key, and if there's a lead, literally just hold on to the ball and dribble and dribble and dribble. No 5-second rule, no nothing. So you're different skills are valued in that kind of a game.
I was probably like 9-10 years old or something, and I don't think VHS was even around quite then, but I watched I think it was Wide World of Sports, which showed the Globetrotters, and then they would have this one instructional video in it, and it would be like Marcus Haynes to show you how, and he would do this dribbling routine, and I memorized it as a kid, and so whenever the family would have parties, I insisted on going out with my basketball and doing Marcus Haynes' whole dribbling routine, including spinning the ball, and I could spin the ball in every one of my fingers and hand it off to the next one, and then I don't think I was quite as fast or as skilled as Marcus, but I gave it a good old shot, and he stuck in my head. And so when I was reading your article and it said about Marcus Haynes dribbling the clock down, we looked something up. I think it's when he died, and they put out like a tribute video of him dribbling around. So here's that, Eric.
Oh yeah, let's watch this.
Yeah.
In February, the Harlem Globetrotters celebrate Black History Month. Today, we highlight 2 paramount victories in our team history. In 1948, the all-black Harlem Globetrotters defeated the NBA champion Minneapolis Lakers, an all-white team led by George Mikan. The next year, the 2 teams set up a rematch. The Globetrotters did it again and defeated the Lakers for the second time in 1949.
We have him dribbling around too. Is another one, or was that the one?
Oh, I do have another one.
Yeah, there's one other one where he's like dribbling around all the time. He's great.
Okay, sorry.
Here we go.
Marcus Haynes, the ghostly man of dribbledom. Just look at him move with that bouncing ball.
The things that they do today, Marcus started them. Anybody dribbling behind their back or between their legs or making fakes and shooting, Marcus started that.
Everybody heard of Marcus Haynes because out of all the guys that came up in that era, he was just that outstanding. And he was a guy that could do the whole thing. He make you look good and he make himself look good.
What he did was something that I could never do, and I could do almost everything on the basketball court. And just watching him, I would pay over and over again to watch Marcus Haynes. And of all the players that played with the Globetrotters, Marcus Haynes is probably the best pure basketball player that ever played with them.
Man.
I love some of those things. You could just imagine guys like Walt Frazier or Earl Pearl, if not Magic Johnson, a generation later, had been exposed to that on some level, and learned how to get those handles and be able to do those wraparound passes or going around the back or whatever it was.
Yeah, it looks so modern. Just the way, not all of it, but the way he handles the ball, the way he can dip through defenders, his touch, just like hitting those little floaters. You can see that now. Yeah,
you can see that now. So that's really fun to go down that. And then, that being the game that you can really point to as integrating, basketball, I would imagine, the fans as well as the players, that was just, is what they did at that point. And that was only a year after Jackie Robinson came up and made much bigger splash with the Dodgers. But, this happens in Chicago.
Yep, this happens in Chicago. And soon after that, some Globetrotters players get signed by pro teams. And it wasn't to the same amount of fanfare. There wasn't a long-standing league that had been segregated, right? This is brand new leagues. The National Basketball League, I think it was called, where the Lakers played, was only a couple years old at this point. And basketball was a different kind of game, right? Basketball in America was really a city game and very much a northern game in the beginning. So New York, Chicago, Boston, places like that, obviously from Massachusetts, that's sort of a different history than baseball, which, you had these sprawling minor leagues throughout the South. You have a kind of more agrarian kind of culture to it. And that probably affected things too.
Yeah, and I also see it in the same light, basketball in particular, with as part of the Great Migration that happened with black families leaving the South and making their way up to places like Chicago, and so you hear about these great stories about jazz and other parts of the culture coming that way, and I can imagine basketball was also part of that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was something that spread really quickly throughout the whole country, and it continues to. I mean, now around the world, like basketball is great. It's of any of the sports leagues in America right now, it's probably the healthiest. It's probably the best in terms of giving the fans an entertaining product every week or every night. In terms of marketing its superstars, baseball is my favorite sport, but basketball right now is probably the best sport.
It is. It's super exciting, and it's accessible to so many different economic levels because it's all you need is a ball. Chances are there's a hoop somewhere, and so as a kid you can always go and shoot, and you can play one-on-one. That's not a big thing. Even just shooting by yourself is a thing, and those are things you can't always do in basketball, or volleyball or baseball or other sports that require numbers and not expensive equipment, but equipment that's beyond just a rim on a post.
Yeah, space.
Yeah, in space. Absolutely. It's been fun telling these stories. Now, there's a ton of these stories that are on your site. I encourage everybody to go there and read some of these, because we'd like to, if you're open to it, bring you back every now and again to break these down like we did today.
Oh, yeah, anytime, Denny. You know it. You better read the website out before you cut me off, though.
Yes, please. Marley, do you
I know you're going to swipe me away any minute. I'm waiting for it.
No. That's only on Fridays when I'm drinking.
Oh, it's only on Fridays when you're drinking. Okay.
Is this? So say it again for us, Marley. I'll type it right in there.
Sports stories.
Right.
Substack.com.
Substack.com.
Yeah.
Sports stories.
Let's see. We're going to test her typing ability right here.
Let's see.
Yep. Let's see what we got.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah,
beautiful.
Nailed it.
You can subscribe, so you don't even have to visit the website again. It just comes right to your inbox. You get a nice email.
Excellent.
Read it on your phone first thing in the morning, before you get out of bed.
Excellent. Well, I hope some of our people's and this also distributes on what's called the High School Narrative. It's like an OTT app that we partnered with that they also push this out. So a lot more views happen on the backside of this. So hopefully people can jump on and see and witness your great writing and dive into some of these stories that sometimes are lost to time, or sometimes you're just telling a different part of them that we haven't heard.
Yeah, any chance I get to tell a good story, as you know, it's worth taking that chance.
And eventually you might write a good enough book so at the beginning you're one of the authors we talk about, instead of just Wesley King and Wayne Coffey. But Jeff Pearlman's coming around, so I don't know if that moves you down the bench, or I don't know.
You'll have to ask Pearlman about it.
Yeah,
see if he thinks I'm worthy of the front montage.
And I can't wait to swipe him, because you'll be in good company, because that'll be the Friday night show. So.
Oh yeah, is he ready for it? Does he know what's coming?
Yeah, I'm not going to let him know. I always let everybody know on the backside. That way I can soften them up and say, "Hey, how's the kids?"
Ask questions later.
All right, hey Eric, much appreciation. All right, we get to go watch those Dodgers and the Lakers.
Yeah,
and see where they take it.
I'm about to go do that right now.
Excellent. Thank you. Marley did that, not me. I didn't swipe. You didn't see me go. Okay. Hey, that was fun, right? All right. We're going to do that more often with Eric. Those are some of the stories he has in there. They're, like I said, they're lost to time. Some of them, only half of the story you might know. And he does the work like authors do, where they dig in and find some of the details that make the story even more something you want to read or be part of. All right. Hope you enjoyed that. Friday. We're going the whole way with Jeff Pearlman, 3-Ring Circus. If you haven't got that book, do yourself a favor. It's certainly available on iBooks or Kindle, or wherever you get your books. I like reading it in this version. Yeah, I'm not all the way through, Bobby. It'll get there. I will get all the way through, but right now I'm up into they've won their 3rd championship, and here comes that year where they bring over Malone and Peyton, and that's where the book's going to end, basically on the backside of that. And so that's going to be exciting. Good stuff coming Friday. Jeff Pearlman. Hope you're fired up for that one. We'll do it. Let's go Dodgers. Let's go Lakers. Let's go Barnaby Jones. I'm out.
Born in America, how are ya? Don't you know me? I'm your native son. I'm the one they call the box cobbler. I'll be watching Sports Stories till it is done. Come watch Sports Stories with Denny Lennon. He's got very interesting people. And listen, don't forget to vote. It's important.
Thanks for watching and listening. Sports Stories with Denny Lennon is produced by me, Marley Rice, and Christine Jinbo, and edited by bad boy Bobby McCall. Original music courtesy of Lennon Music Production, and original images courtesy of Sienna Lennon Photography. A big thank you to all of our contributors of the show. Sports Stories with Denny Lennon is a production of Sports Stories Inc. and available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, or wherever you watch and listen. Make sure you press that subscribe button, give us a review, leave a comment. It will really help us grow the show. And you know what else will help us grow the show? Head on over to patreon.com/Denny Lennon to get some never-before-seen videos, pictures, interviews, and so much more. We are all over social media and constantly sending out clips on Facebook, conducting fun polls on Twitter, going live on Instagram, and more. To find all of our social media links, head on over to sportsstoriespodcast.com. SSDL proudly supports the My Stuff Bags Foundation and the Heroes Movement. Links to how you can support and help these foundations can be found on our website. We also want to give a big thank you to all of our partners of the show. So, as Coach Lennon would say, any questions, comments, or concerns, you can email me, Marley, at info@sportsstoriespodcast.com. We want to thank all of our followers and listeners, and we will see you next time.
Check it out, Buck.